Right here in the U.S., if you're hungry or you just want something to eat, one of your first options may be a fast food joint or whatever's in your kitchen. What is in your kitchen, though? Chances are the food that you have is from the grocery store. If you're going for the cheaper foods, you notice that the majority of it is the food that is heavily processed, while a container of strawberries is about, well, $4.99. Fresh fruit will be a lot more healthy than, say, packaged cookies. So why is it so much cheaper? Let's talk about that. Back in the 1930s, 25% of people in the U.S. lived on farms and received subsidies from the government. A subsidy is a benefit given by the government to groups or individuals, usually in the form of cash payment or tax reduction. The subsidy is usually given to remove some type of burden and is often considered to be in the interest of the public. The main crops that direct payments are given for are corn, wheat, and soybeans. These are used in a lot of the junk food that we purchase. In turn, if these are being paid for to be planted, the food that it is used for will become cheaper. Not to mention that high fructose corn syrup comes from corn. High fructose corn syrup is found in quite a few of the sweet things that you eat, including soda and jelly. The corn syrup is used in place of sugar and is molecularly similar to it. It's also sweet and inexpensive for the companies that use it for its products. It seems that we can't conclude that high fructose corn syrup is worse for you than table sugar, but we know that even with too much sugar, there are health risks. Soda is served as a common drink at fast food restaurants across the United States. To get more perspective on the subject of U.S. food, I set up interviews with a couple staff members at South Education Center. Alright, so what do you think about the way a lot of people eat in the U.S.?
I think they're very limited often by what's in the stores, and a lot of what's in the stores is processed foods. And processed foods mean a lot of ingredients and means that a lot of nutrition is gone, and that's why you see on the labels of most packaged foods, they've added vitamins and minerals and all this stuff. Well, why? They've stripped it all out. If you look at, like, for instance, a real simple thing, white rice versus brown. White rice has 90% of the vitamins and minerals stripped out of it. And then you're adding stuff into it sometimes. Why? Why not just eat the whole grains? If you look at the blue zones, which are the 5 areas in the world that have the highest percentages of people living happy and healthy over 100, it's not the U.S., okay? And they're all village-type areas, and these people are not eating processed foods. They're eating whole foods with a lot of, mostly superfoods, a lot of nutrient value, and they're healthier because of it.
Yeah, and processed food is so cheap, and there's so much of it that it's a big choice.
They've made it cheap, and so, there's that old thing of pay now, pay later, right? Right now, your generation is predicted to have the highest percentage of people in the U.S. that are dead before their parents, okay? This is statistically out from the public health and all kinds of other agencies, but they're saying that, why? No exercise, a lot of video games, and very poor nutrition. Fast food, processed food, junk food, all that, so.
What do you think can be done to solve this problem?
Well, I think what's happening now, you have the biggest kind of little mini land grab in the U.S. for a long time. People are getting their land, growing their own food. There's a guy in California that's growing it right in this inner city in L.A. So I think people are starting to realize, I think everybody, even if they don't have high incomes, are realizing that this food is not good for them and they want healthy food and they want access to it. So people are growing their own food, and I think the government and state and local communities need to get on board with supporting this, that we want to get back to whole food and get away from this corporate farm subsidy program that we've been backing for a long time now.
So, how could changing our food to more whole foods, how could that prove beneficial?
Well, one thing is health, right? Eating healthy food, you're a healthier person. Two is, it connects people back to nature. And if you look at all the studies on stress for kids, they find out that kids that are not in nature, not involved with it, are much higher stressed. Why? Because when you're in nature, you can't quantify things, right? If you're in a forest, you can't count how many trees there are, leaves, your brain relaxes, and they found that everything kind of mellows out. So I think it's really important that kids get connected back to, where their food is coming from, the soil, plants. Most kids, if they go to the store, they think it comes from Wendy's, or they think it comes from, they don't know where their food is coming from.
Get back to some roots.
Yeah.
Well, that's about it for right now. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good talking to you.
Brian, how healthy do you feel like you eat?
I feel like I have a pretty healthy diet. I have had to make many changes over the course of time in my life to get to that point. But those changes include just making sure there's more vegetables, more fruit in the diet, and less processed food.
Is it hard to stick to something like that?
Not once it becomes part of your normal life. Like once you get used to those foods and you come to like those foods, then it's not difficult to do at all. I'd say the biggest challenge for people is developing that lifestyle rather than eating the food.
So where do you buy your food from?
I get food from all over the place. Just depends on which direction I'm going home, or where I'm at the time if I need to pick something up. There are certain items that I'll get specifically at a better grocery store or a smaller grocery store if I'm really looking for something specific.
What are some ways that you think people could have easier access to more nutritious food?
That's a great question, and it's a really difficult question to answer because it comes with a lot of hidden answers or a lot of hidden notions about how we get our food, how we make decisions about where we get our food, how where we live impacts that, how our socioeconomic status impacts that, and that's something that we've actually been talking about in my food science class. And it's called a food environment. It's like where you take in all your food and what that area or environment is like. And food environments can be your home, they can be a restaurant, they can be a grocery store, any place where you go to get your food. And the type of food environment that you frequent or that you're at depends a lot on those things that I mentioned. Economic status, preference, who's in control of what food you're buying, where the money comes from, that sort of stuff. So what are some things that people can do? Well, you can make lifestyle changes. You can make a commitment to cooking your own food instead of buying processed food and stuff like that. You can make a commitment to eating more vegetables and whatnot. But again, there are some things that just are not in your control. There are some things that are out of your control as far as food environment, and those are the hardest things to resist.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's an equal push for healthy food alongside all the advertising for unhealthy food and all their marketing ways?
Yeah. Actually, I think that our culture has changed drastically within the past 5 to 10 years towards a more healthy lifestyle. I feel like those foods that people consider to be more healthy are advertised more often than they used to be. So I feel like, though it may not be an equal push, especially among young people and the types of people that are learning how to develop their food and nutrition lifestyle, I feel like that's more of a bad food type of push. But in general, we are seeing more of a push towards healthy food. But I would like to see it be more prevalent in, like I said, the younger age bracket where those are the type of people who are developing their nutritional habits.
Yeah, that kind of goes into my next question. How do you feel that the youth and adolescents are affected by advertising and just the people around them in general?
In a drastic kind of way. You do what you see and what you are subject to, and as we grow up learning, that is our scope. And if we don't have anything beyond that to see or to experience, then we only know what's in front of us, and we will only experience and seek out what we see that's in front of us. Yeah. So I don't know if you wanted to take a look at this. Have some of the students say something, or
Sure.
yeah. Let's take a look and see what they're up to.
All right, so this is Brian's class, and what class is this right now?
This is food science.
Food science.
Yep. And so, you guys were just looking at a couple maps here, right? The first map was a map of Baltimore, right? What was on that map?
People dying.
Yeah, people dying because of what, though? Unhealthy conditions of diet-related diseases, right? And we tried to draw a correlation between the places and the number of people that died, right? And this map which showed what?
The stores in that city.
This map that you had more people dying from diet-related diseases. Why did we think that happened? Access to healthy food was limited because there's a ton of stores there, right? But they're all what? Corner stores, which generally we know that don't serve quite as healthy food or give people access to healthy food. And the other map you had way less people dying, right? And what kind of grocery stores were there?
It was a supermarket.
A bigger supermarket, which gives access to healthier food. So this is that kind of social justice thing we were talking about. You are living somewhere, and you are part of a community by default, and you don't have a choice in that, and that determines, to some extent, the amount of food or the type of food that you choose, right? The nutrition you choose. I like the soundtrack you have for So yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about here.
I wonder who's babysitting tonight. Mrs. Winkler.
No playing. No jumping on couches. No loud music.
What if she says no Captain Crunch? Captain Crunch!
Hold on to your teeth, Natty. Crunch-a-dice. Welcome to my house. House party, that is.
All I want to do is jump and crunch. Sweet! Jump and crunch.
My Cap'n Crunch cereal is a cool part of this balanced breakfast.
Crunch-a-dice me, Cap'n.
So there are a lot of factors that contribute to an unhealthy eating lifestyle. How can children be affected by habits like these? You guessed it. They can fall into the same habits that they see around them. According to the CDC, childhood obesity has more than doubled in children and tripled in adolescents in about the past 30 years. Influence can come from many places, like families, communities, schools, childcare settings, the media, and even more places. Obviously, we can't control all of that from reaching our children, but we can let them know that it's good to at least balance what you eat. Schools also can play an important role in implementing the idea of a healthy lifestyle. So can parents, and so can you. You don't have to make anyone eat healthy, but you can support it and help make it an easier option. The bottom line is, eating healthy is a choice and can't be forced onto anyone, unless you agree to it, like on the show World's Biggest Loser. As we know, there are a lot of benefits to eating healthy, and it will probably vary a lot wherever you go, and who chooses to eat well and who doesn't.